UFC 325 takes place this weekend. Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez 2, and I'm extremely excited. I figure I'd go through. It's very last minute. I know it's Friday and we got the fights tomorrow, but very last minute, going to go through and give my predictions and breakdowns for this card. After looking at it, I'm sure people on Twitter were talking about it. The first 4 fights on the early prelims are all like Dana White Contender Series or guys just coming on their debut. So I'm going to go ahead and skip that because I honestly don't know too much about them or their careers, and I'm not doing all that digging. This is a main card. It shouldn't be that shit of an opening early prelim, but I digress. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the prelim opener, not the early prelim opener, of Jonathan Mikhachev versus Oban Elliott. Now, I'm a huge fan of Oban Elliott, but I did watch Jonathan Mikhachev's last fight, and he did pretty good. I want to say they're both coming off wins. Not both, sorry. Oban Elliott had that loss to Songko, KO it was. But Oban's looked good in recent fights outside of that. I mean, he's a well-rounded fighter. He's got decent striking, grappling when he needs it, and he tried to get his grappling off against Song, but it kind of just went the wrong way. He is a reach disadvantage in this, and Mikhachev's, a tough guy. His last fight was a war. I can't quite remember against who it was, but I remember watching thinking this is close, but Mikhachev's doing the better work. But I'm going to take Oban Elliott by decision. I feel even though Oban maybe has more losses, he's off, a bit of momentum. And the reach disadvantage, I think he's a dog. I think he's hungry to get a win back. And I could see him just maybe outdoing Mikhachev over 3 rounds, maybe implementing the grappling, putting him down. Because Mikhachev, if I'm not mistaken, is mainly a standing guy. I mean, they don't really go for the finish, but yeah. I mean, not double, but quite a bit more than Oban Elliott when it comes to the feet. When it goes to the ground, neither of these men are really, wet blankets themselves, but I feel like I've seen Oban implement it when things aren't going his way, and I just trust that in a mixed martial artist just to be more well-rounded in case other aspects of their game aren't going well. So we're taking Oban Elliott by probably 29-28 decision, unanimous though. We'll go ahead and move on to the next fight. Torres Finney, the Brick, the Fridge, versus Jacob Malkoun. Now, Torres Finney, if I'm not mistaken, is my height, but look at this guy. I think I'm like 5'9", but look at this guy. Fucking Mack truck. His opponent, Jacob Malkoun, I don't know too much about his game. I feel like I did see his last fight. I want to say he's got pretty good KO power. It seems like Torres Finney does a bit more. But Torres stunk it up against Robert Valentin. He averages 9 takedowns per minute. Not per minute, Jesus, per fight. That's 3 takedowns a round. That could just stall the whole round out. And I saw him get a lot of hate from that. He didn't get signed to the UFC 2 or 3 times over on the Contender Series. Dana was like, you're not entertaining enough. And I kind of agree with that sentiment. But when you're going into a fight and you want to predict who's going to win, I think Torres Finney takes this. Obviously, Jacob Malkoun, big, about the same size as Finney, so he's not going to get muscled over by maybe like just the brick shithouse that Torres Finney is. But I don't see his striking being enough to keep Finney off of him. And Finney's undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 11-0. Malkoun's tasted defeat a few times, and I just think even if he's well-rounded on the feet and has defensive grappling, I think the pressure and the relentlessness of Torres Finney is just going to be too much over 3 rounds. If I'm not mistaken, Jacob Malkoun might... Yeah, he's Australian, so he's home territory. The lights are going to be really bright on this one. Torres Finney, he stunk it up 10 times over. He's not afraid to go out there and do it again. So I'm taking Torres Finney by decision, probably 30-27 if he can get that wrestling off early. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next fight. Cam Rowson versus Cody Brundage. Now, I'm not too familiar with Cam Rowson's game. He's a young up-and-comer Australian guy, but he's a huge favorite, and I'm pretty sure in his last fight I watched it, he got a TKO. Or it was just violent, his last fight. I remember it. And Cody Brundage has had a rough fight out pretty much every time I've seen him fight. Against, what was it, Tebo Gautier? He got back of the headshot, TKO'd. In other fights, he's been fouled or just got brutalized and put on the ground in a ball. His recent fight, I don't know if it was his most recent fight, but he had that brawl in 2025 where he got the nasty KO, but he honestly was like seconds away from getting chinned in those exchanges. I just don't trust that going into this fight, and obviously Cam Rowson a huge favorite, a lot more reach, 6 inches. He's got momentum, not a lot of loss. Cody's been taking quite a bit, coming off a loss. He's taller, he's the bigger guy. Now, I don't understand what the weight discrepancy is, why they have Cody Brundage in at 205 when this is a middleweight bout. But nevertheless, I'm going to take Cam Rowson. I think he's young, he's hungry, he wants the win. He's aggressive on the feet, even though Cody Brundage has like the resume of doing it. When you look at their recent performances, Cam Rowson far exceeds what Cody Brundage just does. And we're taking Cam Rowson. I could see round 2, round 3 KO, TKO. That's just me. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next fight of Junior Tafa versus Billy Alicana. Now, I understand this is Tafa in his home territory, him and his brother. I think his brother got cut from the UFC. But Junior Tafa hasn't looked great either. I want to say his last fight, I can't remember who it was, but he lost a boring decision after losing all this weight and making all this noise about it. He's 6-4. It's not a good record. He's only KO'd schmucks. But Billy Alicana's coming off a win, I think a violent win at that. I can't remember who his opponent was, but it was a slugfest, and he came out on top. Excuse me. And I understand when Tafa wins, he goes for it, but I think that's going to be reckless against a guy like Billy Anakana, who has that grappling in his back pocket. Granted, it's not his game, it's not his style, and I don't think Junior Tafa's going to have enough on the feet for him to make him panic shoot or think he needs to switch his game plan. I think he'll find openings in Tafa's game and kind of mix the martial arts to beat him. There's no way to really say that Billy Anakana is just decisively going to win this. I think you just have to say, I don't trust Junior Tafa. The Tafa brothers have been shit for 3-4 years at this point. They've underdelivered. Yeah, that's really all I have to say, and I think you guys can agree with me on that one. We're going to go ahead and move on to the first fight on the main card. Australian versus Australian, typically the minority slayer, Quillan Salkilled, is against someone of a different background, an Anshul Jabali, and Yanal Ashmuz, Nazarek Hakprast. But in this one, I want to say this. We thought he was going to fight, I can't remember who, but we're going to put him up against Jamie Malarkey, who's been a victim in most of his fights. Jamie Malarkey, surprisingly coming off a close decision win. I know he took a bit of damage, but he used his grappling and had a good striking output when he needed to. And these guys are both very similar in terms of their build. They both are coming off wins. But even with the resume of Jamie Malarkey, when you watch a Jamie Malarkey fight, when the going gets tough, he tends to wilt. Volk put him out on the regional scene, nasty slip uppercut, or I think an overhand, right? It was. Quillen's got takedowns in his back pocket if he needs it. One of his fights, he was gassed and kept going for takedowns and got the win. So he's willing to dig deep when he needs it. Malarkey just kind of gets frail up against the cage. And when you get frail against Quillen Salkilled, he's going to find that opening. He found that head kick against Nazareth Hakprast. He found the 1-2 down the pipe in the beginning for Anshul. And I think Malarkey will survive the early onslaught, but maybe round 1, round 2, it's going to build up, and maybe against the cage, maybe out in the open, I think we're going to see a Quillen Salkilled vicious KO TKO, in my opinion. And that's my prediction for this fight. That's probably my lock of the card, is Quillen Salkilled. I can't see a world where Jamie Malarkey is levels above Salkilled. I think Malarkey is levels below Salkilled, but we'll see. I think Nazareth Hakprast is a very good win, and I hope it translates well, but we're moving on. Tai Tuivasa, 0-5 in his last fight. He's trying to break the skid here, but this is a tough opponent against him. Granted, Taliesin Teixeira, undefeated prospect, went up against Derek Lewis, of all people. Got slept brutally. He was grabbing the cage trying to get up. You worry about his confidence. You worry if he's shaken. Does he have, the durability? And with a guy like Tai Tuivasa, 6'2", 6'3", against his opponent 6'7", the overhand rights are going to be flying. Like, Taliesin better be good about where his chin is and where his hands are, because just like the Lewis fight, when you're a shorter guy, the overhands are your best bet against the tall guy, because they can lean back, but you're still going to be there. You're not having to reach forward. You're just going up. So I think Tai Tuivasa has a good chance to get a chin here, but if Taliesin isn't scared, he hasn't taken too much damage, he's had quite a bit of time off. I think he's big, he's still young, he's very explosive, and I think he's going to put that mustard, pepper, and ketchup on Tai Tuivasa and probably brutally melt him against the cage. Maybe a nasty body shot and then like a 1-2 hook uppercut, type ordeal. I just don't see Tai getting it done, man. Tai's lost his last 5 fights, and he went from losing to guys like Cyril Gahn to getting blobbed by, Marcin Tybura. It's just, he had a very bad, it was like the Tony Ferguson. You lose against the best, and then you start slowly losing against the middle and the worst. And I'm not saying Taliesin's the worst by any way, but the heavyweight division is shallow. Ty's got maybe this fight, and if the UFC is just blatant favoritism, which it is, maybe one more, but I don't see Tai Tuivasa getting this done. I'm taking Taliesin Teixeira, round 2, KO TKO. I think it'll be an entertaining first round with Tai Tuivasa probably landing some big bombs, putting Teixeira in trouble. But as soon as he's done, just trying to give everything he's got, and Teixeira's still in his face, and he's tall and he's rangy, and he's using that jab like a piston down the middle, I don't think Ty's holding up. I think he's going to get bloodied, beaten, dropped. If he wins this, it's a feel-good moment. He's going to hit a nice shoey on the cage back in his homeland. And he said he's hungry. He took time off to miss it. And I get that. But, dude, 0-5, there's nothing you can say that'll convince me otherwise. When Teixeira just tasted his first professional loss, and I'm sure he's hungry to get it back. So we're taking Taliesin Teixeira. Round 2, probably KO TKO in my opinion. We move on to, I want to say, feature fight of the card. Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Huffy. Now, this is a really good matchup. You got 2 explosive strikers. Rafael Fiziev coming off the decision loss against Gaethje, who recently looked good against Paddy Pimblett. Mauricio Huffy, I think, he's coming off the loss to a guy on this card, Benoit Saint-Denis, where he got grappled and subbed pretty easily. I see a lot of people picking Huffy, and I understand Huffy's got slick striking. He's like the new big thing. But Rafael's no chump, man, and he's durable. Like, we saw it against Gaethje. He had Gaethje in trouble in moments despite the knockdown when it happened. He's durable. He looks better for this fight. He's big. He's got a good weight cut going. And I think if he knows that Huffy has not made the improvements in his wrestling, and I think Fiziev's going to see that, slick footwork and setups that Huffy's going for, he's going to dodge the big shots. And if he's getting hit by big shots, I think he'll grapple against a guy like Huffy. I don't see how Huffy could just revolutionize his game within one fight. He's been working with Volk, and Volk's got great MMA wrestling, but I don't see it being enough. It's the same thing with the main event. We'll get to that, but I really don't see either man getting chinned here. Huffy's durable. If it gets to the grappling, that's another story. But on the feet, Huffy's durable. He hasn't been hurt too bad. He did have a slugfest with I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Lawn Top. He was a Hispanic guy. But Fizzyev's a mainstay, dude. He had a good fight with Gamrot before the injury. Good 2 fights with Gaethje. Bobby Green when he wasn't completely chinless. I mean, all that to say, Gaethje via decision 29-28. I think Huffy starts strong. But Fiziev probably puts it on him. And I could see Huffy wilting, or maybe Fiziev pulls the grappling out of his back pocket like nobody expects and gets a sub over Huffy. But we'll see. We're moving on to the co-main event of Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Dan Hooker getting right back in here after his loss to Arman Tsarukyan earlier in the later half of last year. I want to say the second to last main card of 2025. But Benoit, man, he's a, you just can't stop him. He just got a win over Huffy. Huffy was undefeated before that fight. There was all this, Benoit had been chinned by Poirier. Like, slick strikers are not his best thing because he's a sloppy brawler. But no, he's very refined. He's not a crazy knockout artist. He's a well-rounded fighter, and he showed that. And he wasn't going to stand with Huffy. He wasn't going to try to win in his realm. He's going to take you into the realm that you're not comfortable with. And I think the same thing's going to happen with Dan Hooker here. Dan's durable. Maybe he just is Dan Hooker in this fight and toughs out Benoit and takes it to a decision, or Benoit just takes more damage than he can, stomach. But I think Dan Hooker, coming off of that pretty bad damage loss to Arman Tsarukyan, just doesn't really have it in him to, mainstay. And I think Benoit Saint-Denis is going to get this win, probably, with the ground and pound like Tsarukyan did, or I could see him finding a sub. I don't know if he could TKO Dan Hooker, but I don't see a KO TKO. I more see maybe a submission, or just, a terrible decision where Dan Hooker's getting his ass beat from pillar to post. But this is the one that I'm still, iffy about. I mean, the main event, obviously. But I'm going to take Benoit Saint-Denis by decision. It's really hard to finish Dan Hooker. I mean, Arman Tsarukyan could do it, but Mateus Gamrot couldn't. It's MMA math. It's a never-ending circle. So I'm going to take Benoit Saint-Denis by decision, probably 29-28. I could see Hooker having, a good second or third round, but I think Benoit's going to do enough early, and he's going to keep up with it throughout the fight, and maintaining grappling and striking when he needs it, and just putting it on Dan Hooker. Let's go ahead and move on to the main event. Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez 2. This is cinema. This was kind of an unwanted fight, but it makes sense. Movsar and Lerone haven't done enough. Diego Lopez got a win over a guy like Gene Silva, who's proven that he's right there at the top level after the win over Arnold Allen. And I think it's just what the UFC wanted to do. Volk said if he loses here, this is probably retirement, but if he doesn't, he's going to keep going, so I'm excited for that. And while a lot of people are questioning Volk's durability at 37 years of age, this is only one fight removed from his Lopez fight where he got dropped once and then decisively beat Diego for the rest of the fight. And I think it's probably going to be the same story here. I understand you can make adjustments. Diego's saying he's changed his whole game. I don't think in under a year you can change your striking, your mindset, your pace, your activity, your grappling against a guy like Alexander Volkanovski, arguably, not even arguably, the featherweight GOAT, resume alone. You know what I mean? I could see Diego doing better in the early rounds. Maybe he almost puts Volk away. Like, in the first fight, he got the knockdown, but he didn't get any nasty ground and pound or have Volk hurt. Like, outside of that, Volk got up and circled out and survived to the buzzer. Maybe Diego has a few better moments like this and it becomes a way closer fight. And maybe he could improve. I mean, the Gene Silva, he was winning that first round. He did amazing. Second round, he was really gassed, taking damage, and found that counter. And maybe he does that against a guy like Volk, but Volk's well-rounded. He's not just going to run you down like a Gene Silva. He's going to be calculated. He's going to find his openings. He's going to set up when he goes for the kill shot. All that to say, I just don't think Diego has made the adjustments that he could within a year to fight a guy like Alexander Volkanovski. When Volk's back on top, he's got all of this momentum. He's got his confidence back. He knows his chin is still there and somewhat remains. Yeah, I mean, if you guys think anything else, let me know in the comments below. If you have any other reasonings as to why you might take Lopez, let me know. So they were talking about staph on Volk's ear. I think it was just a mat burn, or like it got pinched in the mat during grappling. You don't really see staph in a spot that small in the ear. I think in Volk's vlog you saw blood dripping from it, which you don't see too much with staph if it's like fresh. Usually develops over long periods of time, but I digress. I'm taking Alexander Volkanovski to win. He had Diego in bad spots in that first fight, like hand on the hip, shovel uppercut, but Diego's so durable, man. It's really hard to see him, ever in a spot where you wonder if a finish could happen. And he's still young. He didn't take that much damage in the Gene Silva fight. I think we're about to see another, masterclass from Volk over 5 rounds. I could see some better moments for Lopez, but we could see Volkanovski put a stamp on this performance and get the finish, or really hurt Lopez and make you go, wow, Volk is really levels above these guys when you give them another crack at him. But I digress. Volkanovski, I'm not going to get scorecards, but we're just going to take Volkanovski by decision. I think he's going to look a lot better. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know your picks in the comments below. If you disagree with any of my picks or you have any other reasons why, please let me know. Like, I'm all for these last minute conversations. But if you're a gambling man, good luck on your parlay. See ya.